Moving on for now, in what can be called a rather unique feat, Elon Musk's SpaceX is on a mission to orbit Earth from pole to pole, a novel trajectory in which no human has traveled before. On Monday, it launched a crew of 4 private astronauts led by a crypto entrepreneur as part of this historic mission. Our next report telling you more.
Going to space has never been made this easy before, and we have none other than Elon Musk to thank for it.
2, 1, ignition, and liftoff.
On March 31st, a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft carried by a Falcon 9 rocket took off from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, marking the first ever space trip of a crew of 4 private citizens. These astronauts were sent by Musk to survey Earth's north and south poles, a rather daunting task to be carried out by those who never set foot in space before. The polar mission, called FRAM-2, is spearheaded by a Bitcoin investor and Malta resident Chun Wang, who reportedly paid a fortune to SpaceX for this polar adventure. Accompanying him are 3 guests, a Norwegian film director, a Germany-based robotics researcher, and an Australian adventurer, all of whom share an undying love and enthusiasm for exploring the poles of the Earth. The SpaceX rocket has put the space tourists on a path never flown in 64 years of human spaceflight. The astronauts are supposed to spend 3 to 5 days partaking in research experiments centered on how spaceflight and microgravity affect the human body. The SpaceX crew will also be the first to attempt to grow oyster mushrooms in space as part of an experiment that could provide a nutritious, delicious and sustainable food source for long-duration space missions. Won't be a stretch to say that this is officially the era of space tourism, and Musk's latest feat has only revolutionized it further. Bureau Report, WION World.
Let's now shift our focus to an Israeli airstrike on Lebanon's capital, Beirut. It has killed at least 4 people, injured 7 others, further mounting pressure on the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. The attack occurred in the wee hours of Tuesday in a southern suburb of Beirut, considered a Hezbollah stronghold, housing many of its senior leaders. In a statement, the IDF said that the target of the strike was Hezbollah operative Hassan Ali Mahmoud Badr, who they say served in Hezbollah's Unit 3900 as well as Iran's elite Quds force, accusing him of aiding Hamas with planning attacks against Israelis, further adding that it was assisted by Israel's security agency and Mossad for the operation. Israel's foreign minister has said that Hezbollah operative, in his words, posed a real and immediate threat.
This morning, or very early this morning, IDF fighter jets struck a Hezbollah terrorist in Beirut. He had recently been directing Hamas terrorists and assisting them in an attempt to carry out a major imminent attack against Israeli civilians. The terrorist posed a real and immediate threat, what we called ticking bomb. Therefore, we had to eliminate the threat. Israel will continue to remove any threat to our citizens.
In fact, a senior Hezbollah legislator has said that the group is not looking for a war with Israel, but is ready for it, especially if it is imposed on them.
We do not want a war. Let's be clear. Hezbollah does not want a war, but at the same time, if war is imposed on it, and this depends on the spirit and language coming from the Israeli enemy, if war is imposed in it, Hezbollah is on high alert to deter any aggression.
Meanwhile, Lebanon's president condemned the Israeli airstrike, while the country's prime minister hailed it as a violation of the ceasefire agreement between the two countries. According to eyewitnesses, the strike happened around 3 a.m. local time.
We were at home at 3 a.m. We were sleeping. We hear a woo sound and a powerful strike hit. I carried my daughters and got them down from the building. We asked around and searched for the strike location and what had happened. They said the strike hit our neighbor next to us, really close to us, but we didn't pinpoint it exactly because of the dust that was everywhere, and the smell was really disturbing.
And in the aftermath of the strike, visuals showed extensive damage in at least the top 3 floors of the residential building, with the balconies of these floors completely blown out. You see, the latest strike comes just days after Israel launched its first attack on Beirut since the Lebanon-Israel ceasefire came into effect last November. In last Friday's attack, the Israeli military had struck a drone storage unit that it claimed was being used by Hezbollah, further alleging that they launched the attack after 2 rockets were fired towards Israel from southern Lebanon, an allegation denied by Hezbollah. Following the October 7 attack, Hezbollah launched a campaign against Israel in solidarity with Gaza, leading to a major conflict between the two sides that included a ground invasion of southern Lebanon. The war killed at least 4,000 people in Lebanon and displaced more than 1.2 million people. Oscar-winning director Oliver Stone shares an uncanny connection with former U.S. President John F. Kennedy, both in real and real life. The reason why we're saying that is because his 1991 film on JFK was at the center of a heated controversy because of its portrayal of Kennedy's assassination. And almost 3 decades later, Stone is all set to testify to the U.S. Congress about thousands of newly released government documents surrounding the assassination. The first hearing of the House Task Force on JFK, slated on Tuesday, comes weeks after President Donald Trump's administration revealed approximately 80,000 pages of declassified files on federal secrets on John F. Kennedy, whose assassination has been shrouded in mystery for decades. Nearly 50 years back, the Warren Commission investigation, in charge of the investigation into Kennedy's assassination, concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald, a 24-year-old former Marine, was the lone gunman to fatally shoot Kennedy in the year 1963. And this theory has been refuted by many, including Stone, whose film titled JFK spoke of a shadowy government conspiracy behind Kennedy's death. And Stone is not alone, by the way. Just days ago, Republican Representative Anna Paulina Luna claimed that U.S. broadcasting company NBC is holding on to a videotape that proves Oswald did not assassinate Kennedy. She also chairs the task force and expressed her wish to work with writers and researchers to help solve one of the biggest cold case files in U.S. history, quote unquote. The catch is this case was never viewed as cold by scholars and historians, who basically argued that Oswald was being framed for the lack of supporting evidence. A similar stream of thought came through Stone's movie JFK, which strongly believed that Kennedy's death was the result of high-level conspiracies involving elements of the U.S. intelligence. JFK was nominated for 8 Oscars, including Best Picture, and won 2. The movie had also hit the popularity charts, grossing more than $200 million. However, the movie was also questioned on whether it even managed to get the facts right. As of now, the files declassified by the Trump administration don't seem to reveal anything new that can substantiate the claims made by these independent researchers, such as Stone. Will that change in time to come, though? The coming days will tell us more. The simmering tensions between China and Taiwan have now reached a boiling point, sparking fears of a military confrontation that could engulf the entire region. How exactly are the Philippines and Japan reacting? Our next report getting you the complete story.
There has been a dramatic escalation in the Asia-Pacific in the past 36 hours. China has launched large-scale drills in the waters and airspace surrounding Taiwan, sending a resounding message of its unyielding resolve. Now, the question isn't if China will act, but how and when. China has sent its army, air and rocket forces to surround Taiwan for large-scale drills Beijing said were aimed at practicing for a blockade of the self-ruled island. Taiwan's defense ministry said China has deployed 71 aircraft and 19 warships, including the Shandong aircraft carrier group, around the island. This is the most recorded since May last year, when 27 Navy vessels were reported. Taiwan has responded, dispatching its own aircraft and ships and deploying land-based missile systems in response to the exercises. Taiwan has also accused Beijing of being the world's biggest troublemaker.
President Lai has instructed the national security and defense units to make preparations and deal with the situation. We have a full grasp of the related situation. In the face of external threats, our government will continue to defend the democratic and free constitutional system. We have the confidence and the capability to defend our sovereignty rights, protecting the safety of the people, and maintaining social stability.
Tensions across the 180-kilometer Taiwan Strait have escalated since Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te took office in May 2024. Chinese leaders loathe Lai, who has been more outspoken than his predecessor, Tsai Ing-wen, in defending Taiwan's sovereignty. Amid the large-scale drills, China's Taiwan Affairs Office said independence means war and blamed Lai for the escalation of tensions. China's PLA also released a series of videos to publicize their military exercise, including one in which they depicted Lai as a green parasite, poisoning the island by hatching smaller parasites. Tensions are escalating, but the Taiwanese say they are unfazed by Chinese drills.
I'm used to it because drills have been going on for a few years. We have been seeing news about China circulating Taiwan for many years, and their military activity. So it is no longer a surprise. Let's see. They have been doing that for a while. What can we do?
But the Chinese threat is not restricted to Taiwan. Now the Philippines says it would be inevitably involved if the neighboring country is invaded. The Philippines military chief has already told his troops to start preparing for actions, to have the mentality that the Philippines is already at war. While there's no word on the recent escalation yet from Japan, another country that would be dragged into the war due to its geographical standing, it had a week back announced an emergency evacuation plan for 120,000 residents on islands near Taiwan, a precautionary measure against a worst-case scenario that could destabilize East Asia. Not to forget the US. Any conflict could bring in the US, which maintains a series of alliances in the region and is legally bound to treat threats to Taiwan as a matter of grave concern. In fact, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, during his recent visit to Asia, committed to address China's aggression.
America is committed to sustaining robust, ready, and credible deterrence in the Indo-Pacific, including across the Taiwan Strait. Japan would be on the front lines of any contingency we might face in the Western Pacific, and we stand together in support of each other.
With Beijing's patience wearing thin and Washington's support for Taipei unwavering, the stage is set for a showdown that could have far-reaching consequences for global stability and security. Bureau Report, WION World is One.